Good morning, it's March 24th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. I think if you ask any average American, they think the government is too big, it spends too much, you would get an immediate yes. If you asked them if they think there's waste, fraud, and abuse in the government spending, they would again say yes. But if you listen to Democrats, the effort by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is all a charade, and that Elon Musk, the man tasked to put this effort together by Donald Trump, he's a villain and has become the target of their anger. Look at what's going on with Tesla dealerships and Tesla car owners around the country. Once the darling of the liberal side, the electric cars have suddenly become their targets of anger. The biggest spending program within the government are the entitlement programs, Social Security and Medicare. It makes eminent sense to look at these programs and find if there's a way to save money. After all, we've read multiple reports that Social Security is going broke, and somewhere around 2032 benefits will have to be reduced. That's not coming from any Republican or Democrat, that's coming from the experts. If you care about Social Security, you should be urging the government to find ways to make the program more efficient. And if it can save money, you should be cheering that effort on. But that's not what today's Democrats are doing. You see, Social Security and Medicare have long been considered the third rail of politics. If you dare touch them, you're committing political suicide. But the fact remains, if you don't touch them in some form, they will start to run out of money, and if benefits have to be cut, woe unto any politician holding office at that moment in time. So when the DOGE team suggested they look at Social Security for savings, the Democrats went on the attack. Martin O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland, and most recently the Social Security Commissioner, an ardent Democrat, who under Joe Biden claimed that Social Security checks would stop within 90 days under the Trump administrations. Now that's ludicrous. Other Democrats had their lawyers go to the courts to stop any look at waste, fraud, and abuse within the system. And once again, we have a district court judge in Maryland, Judge Ellen Hollander, issue a temporary restraining order preventing DOGE from looking at Social Security, saying their work was likely, quote, an illegal fishing expedition, end quote. I'm not sure exactly what they would be fishing for. In her order, Hollander said that the DOGE team failed to provide an adequate justification for its sweeping access to the personal information of tens of millions of Americans, including Social Security numbers, dates of birth, home addresses, income and assets, citizenship status, medical information, and disability status. Well, let's talk about disability status for a minute. It's one of the biggest places of fraud within the system. Quote, the DOGE team is essentially, according to Judge Hollander, and I'm quoting her, the DOGE team is essentially engaged in a fishing expedition at SSA in search of a fraud epidemic based on little more than suspicion. It's launched a search of the proverbial needle in the haystack without any concrete knowledge that the needle is actually in the haystack. Well, guess what? This judge, who was appointed by President Barack Obama, doesn't know what she's talking about. Even the government accounting office has said there is fraud within the system and a lot of abuse. The latest ruling in preventing the administration from trying to trim the fat from government spending is nonsense. The government can and should review all its data for possible fraud. And that's not a search warrant. This is data in its possession that modern data analysis can analyze effectively. And the department routinely hires consultants who have access to the information. These are outside government people. Rather than demanding privacy safeguards, which might have made sense, the judge barred all review of Social Security data to hunt down fraud. These same consultants could be using the data they review for nefarious purposes, but that doesn't seem to concern Judge Hollander or the Democratic Union that brought the case before her. Something has to be done about this rash of cases where the district court judges are issuing rulings that affect the entire nation. Now, as I look at it, there's two solutions. First, the United States Congress has significant authority to limit a judge's jurisdiction reach, primarily through its constitutional powers of the federal judiciary. Article 3 of the Constitution establishes that judicial branch grants Congress broad discretion to its shape, its structure, scope, and operations. Congress can pass laws to remove or restrict certain type of cases from federal court jurisdiction, effectively stripping courts of authority over specific issues. The constitutional basis for this can be found in Article 1, Section 8, the necessary and proper clause. In that section, it states, among other things, quote, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. And at the end of the section, it states, quote, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or any department or officers thereof. So that basically says Congress can step in and do this. But I think that would become more controversial, and more than likely it would have to be passed in the Senate where they would filibuster it. This would obviously be a drastic solution and one that appears a little too political. The better solution would be the second one. The Supreme Court could take one of these cases and clearly delineate the powers of the executive branch under Article 2 of the Constitution. If the justice looked at this law correctly, I believe they will clearly delineate the powers of the executive branch, and somewhere in the middle, we will know exactly what Donald Trump can do and where a district judge can no longer enjoin or restrain that executive power. The executive branch, right now that means Donald Trump, won't win every fight, but they also won't lose them all. And once these powers are finally decided, district court judges will be restrained from hearing these cases, and the strategy of forum shopping, looking for a judge you believe will give you a favorable decision, will end. This is what needs to happen. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.